Shriram, now we'll move on to like your career, right? So after IIM, as we scroll through your LinkedIn profile, we see you joined Nestle as a management trainee. While
Correct.
simultaneously you were also like doing your own startup and doing your own stuff. So as
Correct.
a person, or as for the people who will be tuning into this to and who are like budding entrepreneurs at this point of time, so for them actually, how did you think about this idea, or like when did you think about this idea and thought that yes, I should start a startup, and what eventually went into starting it all together, right?
Actually, when I joined Nestle, I did not have a clear, at no point in time in life, actually, I had a clear understanding of what I wanted to do next. Even now, I do not have a clear understanding of what I wanted to do next. So one thing I would want to say is that it is okay to have that, hazy outlook as to what it is that I want to do next. It's not a bad state to be in. It's not a gone case to be in that state, because many people are, and many people who have think they have all figured out haven't yet figured out. So it is okay to be there. All you need is to be able to have the courage to be able to say, okay, I'll wait through this period for 2 years and I know how to manage my board. You can only look so far onto the horizon. You cannot look at what is behind. So it is okay to be in that hazy state. But coming to the Nestle question you asked about, frankly, again, I was too lazy to be applying to the jobs I liked or anything of that sort at that point in time. And frankly, the whole concept of work-life balance or work satisfaction did not make sense to me, because I have never worked in the past. So it all seemed like, oh, what is this work satisfaction they are talking of? They pay you money and you work, and that is the kind of a business transaction it is. And so I still fully did not understand the extent of, I'll only do this particular job and etc. So I said, okay, fine, let us explore, let us see what works and what sticks and etc. So I took the job out of campus of Nestle. I had an offer with Nestle, and when I went to Nestle, it was a great learning experience for 6 months, because I understood how goods moved from uh, factory to FMCG, and how the whole distribution and retail chains worked, and how are people able to make 1 rupee chocolates and still make money. So that all seemed fascinating. But then I realized after the 6-month period, now this particular job will happen in circles. It will happen in months. There is a month, there is a target, you achieve the target, there is a next month in which this whole cycle will repeat itself all over again. So that did not seem all that too exciting for me. Okay, I learned, I had a good time, 6 months time, but this is not something I would want to do every day. So then I first quit that job. I did not have a follow-up as to what I'll do. But I said, okay, it is always good to have a safety net, and you will get, complacent with your own life and work, because as they say, salary is the biggest addiction. So I did not want to get into that addiction. So I said, if you quit, then you will probably figure out something and move on. So I quit, and at that particular point in time, this whole I and my friend used to discuss various startup ideas. One of the startup ideas we discussed was, I wouldn't say it is revolutionary, disruptive, or anything of that sort like people say today. It's a fairly simple idea. We felt that the thesis behind our startup was essentially it was about trading used electronics. And what we felt was, especially mobile phones and electronics, the cycle times were falling. For example, a mobile phone you used to use for 4 years, 5 years before that, now you are changing every 6 months and etc. What that means is that a lot of these mobile phones will go into the second-hand market very rapidly. And when they go into the second-hand market very rapidly, these phones or electronic gadgets are not fully used up. There is still a lot of useful life left in them. And we also felt that a lot of India wants to get these access to branded phones and etc., but they would not want to pay full cost. So second-hand is a good market. So we can connect these buyers and sellers is what we thought, and we set up the business. We did quite well. We wanted to raise about 3 crores initially, and we did have an offer for 3 crores, but the funder wanted us to change our business model. And we felt the funder wanted to change our business model because, again, there are 2 things here. One, we are trying to build a business, and the business is for the customers, whereas the VC guy is looking to build a business where he wants to sell and exist to the next guy. So the dynamics of this thing is slightly different. One is in it for the long run, one is trying to flip it. So there is a conflict of what model works. Now, the model which he wanted us to work on, we were not comfortable because we felt it can create a lot of transactions in the short term, but it was not sustainable. And we did not want to be doing unsustainable businesses just because somebody was giving a value and a valuation to it and you can get a salary out of it. Because I wanted to do a business that is self-sustaining with or without the funding. It should self-sustain on its own. So we said, no, just because you are giving us money, we'll not be changing our model because we did not find it to be sustainable. And eventually what happened is the funding didn't come our way and our personal savings dried up and we exhausted all our savings. And at that point in time, what I and my partner had in our mind was to take that money and do whatever he said was doing and figure it out later. We shut down this business, and we said we'll shut down this business because we do not want to do things we know or we think will not work just because somebody is giving us money. So that is why we shut this business, and each of us moved our ways. And I joined OYO because it was a startup and it was growing back then. So I thought, okay, let us explore what we want to. Let us explore how they build startups and see if we had done anything drastically wrong in the way we built our previous startup. It will be a good learning. So I did that for 2 years, and it was a great place to be because you have all these people who are having quite a good pedigree, and OYO grew the way it did just because of its people. So the people were all great. So it was a great working experience for 2 years. But I personally again felt that this was a business being done for the venture model sake, and I felt it was not sustainable. And when I feel something is not sustainable, I do not want to be a part of it. That is when I quit OYO again. And I felt, okay, this has been going on for long. Nestle, I learned something, I jumped. Startup, I did something, it did not work, I jumped. OYO, I did something, I did not like something, I jumped. So how long will I be galloping is the question I asked myself, because I was at a particular age where I felt I should narrow down on my interests. I cannot be hopping on from one thing to the other. Which is when I said, okay, fine, let us do this whole analysis all over again, which I did back in engineering when that whole lab assistant thing was there, lab technician thing was there. So I said, what am I good at? I'm good at analysis and etc. is again the same answer I got. And I felt I always had a knack for finance. Now, if many people ask me, okay, if you feel you have a knack for finance, why didn't you join finance at the end of college? That's a good question. The answer is pure lethargy. I thought we'll figure it out later, and I felt, essentially, like I said, I felt work satisfaction and all seemed bullshit at that point in time. But after working in 3 different companies, one of which is my own, I felt work satisfaction is all that there is, irrespective of how much money they pay you or don't pay you. So I said, okay, fine, finance is where I want to get into, and I started writing to every company that had capital in its name. Any company that had capital in its name, I started writing to them saying that I am so-and-so. I passed out of IIM A in 2014. It's been 4 years since I passed out. I absolutely have no financial services experience, but I'm good at finance because I did well in my finance courses and etc. And you have to trust me basically because I say so, and you have to give me a job. That is my exact letter I wrote. Most people did not reply. The ones who replied said, don't you think you're being too rude in this way, asking for a job and etc. But somewhere I felt, sir, please give me a job. Nobody will even reply. There is something that should be there in that letter or that I read that at least attracts a reaction, positive or negative, at least get noticed. A lot of people didn't respond. Some people said, this is not the way you ask. But all you require is that one person to say, okay, come and talk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I understood from that thing is that in many places where you're afraid of something, right, writing a letter or approaching someone and etc., the fear of failure is only perceived. There is actually nothing you lose if you fail. वो क्या तुम्हारे घर आके तो नहीं बोलेगा ना कि why did you write me a letter बोल के he'll get lost. At best he'll get lost or something of that sort. So many people I see, not just in applying for jobs or something, अरे यार ये नहीं हुआ तो ये job नहीं मिला तो and etc. So there's one thing, the probability of failure and the impact due to a failure. There might be a very high probability of failure in many of these, but the impact due to failure is very less. It's not like you'll go on road begging, or it's not like you'll not have a job, or it's not. So most times what people do is they say, oh, the probability of failure here is very high, so I'll not do it. But what is most important is, okay, if you fail, what is the impact that it will have on you? That is most cases negligible. And when cases where the impact of a failure is very negligible, I think in spite of probability being high, you should go for it and do it. Because like I said, in my case, all you required was one person to say, okay, come and talk to me. And finally, some 3-4 people told, come and talk to me. Eventually, 3 people said no, one person said yes. And that is all there is required, right? So I went. So most times, most people in college and etc. Even I suffered from the same thing. It's not like I am this whole Buddha who has all figured out it all along. But it's basically, come to think of it, I realize most times we fear the probability of failure, but impact of failure is very less in most of the things we do. It's not like if you fail a particular exam, or if you take a tough course or something, your CGPA will go down and etc. So again, like I said, in the 60 years of your work life, these will not even seem to be that big things that mattered. So in the larger scheme of things, if you think these do not matter, you should take that risk. If the impact of failure is low, the negatives, downside of the failure is low, you should take this. Don't be too bothered by, oh, I'll take this course because this will give me a high grade. Oh, I'll take this course because this will improve my CGPA and all. Always try to do courses that will help you. And I mean, if you enjoy that course, if you want to do it, you should go ahead and do it, is my suggestion. Whether it will lead to success or failure, nobody will be able to tell. At least you should first enjoy what you're doing. That is how I approach my life. And so far it has turned out well. Like I said, probably I could have got there much earlier, but I don't regret.
So one thing I'd like to ask about failing is, like, you started a startup and you definitely had a lot of ambitions and there was a lot of passion behind doing that startup. And just shutting it down might seem like devastating for some people, especially when you have such a good background, like you're from IIT, you're from an IIM, and you're doing so good in life. And then after that, failing at a startup just because you don't get some funding, just because the investors are not, getting your idea that well. So how did you cope up with this failure? And can you tell us this phase of your life where you felt, how were you feeling at that time?
So actually, during my IIT prep days, I was, expecting a much better rank than I got. And that was the biggest disappointment I ever faced in my life. I said, oh, I was expecting a rank below 500. Where did I end up, and etc. But once that is done, right, you read a lot of books and etc. Your philosophy and bent of mind changes. But after that episode, right, after a lot of worrying and etc., you still did not get the result you wanted. I stopped taking things seriously. Nothing else mattered. You try, you fail, you move on, you do something else in life. That one big, I wouldn't call it a failure even now, but that one big disappointment at that point in time, it kind of made me thick-skinned. That in the long run, all these things don't matter. You just need to enjoy your life, and success is only a byproduct of that life. It is not the end goal. The end goal is only enjoying what you're doing. Never do anything that you're not enjoying because just it lead to success. Because it is very difficult to enjoy success if you are not enjoying life in the first place. So my destination is always, will this make me happy? Am I happy doing this? And success, if it comes, is only a bonus. That is not my destination. So I don't care if someone else got that, did what the investor wanted and got the funding. If someone else did something else and got a better job than me, if someone else did something else and got a better salary than me, these do not matter to me. And that the reason why that is because a big disappointment early on in life just made me thick-skinned. And that is a fantastic place to be. If you get a huge disappointment upfront, nothing else, you will get so thick-skinned that nothing else will seem to matter. And you will not optimize and make your decisions based on, अरे यार उसको इतना package मिल रहा है, so I should take up this job which I hate, but I want to be known as the topper with the highest package with my badge. And so you will not take suboptimal decisions to please your peer group or neighbors or Sharma uncles and some other aunties and etc. So again, the impact of what society perceives of you, if you minimize it to the absolute zero, I think you'll enjoy life, and that is all that matters. Success is only a byproduct of it.
Excellent. That was an empowering thing that you just talked about. And I loved your, aspect about failure and your life.
You told before the interview that you won't talk about any advices or something, but I think this was the most philosophical thing a fourth year guy can hear right now.
Yeah. So I was not expecting such an amazing interview, but I thought that you might be just another person who's, great at exams and has this kind of a life. But with this perspective, I think you might be the best person that has come onto the interview yet, as of yet. And I really had fun in connecting with you. And thanks for being such a great alumni.
I would just thank you for your inviting me, and I had a great fun talking to you. I just want to say one thing. I know that SAS reminds me that I told I'll not give any advices, but I do want to give one advice.
Yeah, sure.
One thing I felt I should have done a bit more is that in 4 years of time, right, when you had so much free time and etc., because exams and all, like we all know, we study like 4 or 5 days before and we do it well. The remaining time you are just chit-chatting about random stuff and movies and etc. and etc. That is a very important part of life. I enjoyed the most. I had random discussions about whether Salman Khan is better or Shah Rukh Khan is better umpteen number of times, whether Rahul Dravid is better or Sachin Tendulkar is better umpteen number of times, whether Telugu movies are better or Hindi movies are better umpteen number of times. Pointless discussions running through all 4 years.
Yeah.
So, and that is important, because again, those are the memories you remember, right? You will not remember how much you scored in digital communications and etc. So while that is important, I felt that when you had access to high speed internet and all sorts of facilities and etc., I felt I could have not wasted as much time as I did and learnt a bit more about things that actually interested me. I felt that would have saved a lot of my time, and I could have moved ahead. Like I said, I don't regret it. It's not that it's the end of it, but with the facilities that you have in campus and with the internet at your disposal, apart from watching porn or downloading movies and etc., if you actually manage to read up stuff that is of importance to you or which you think you'll enjoy. For example, I always had a fascination towards financial markets, but the first time I started reading about it is after I got out of IIM A. Now, why didn't I do it? Now, why didn't I do it in IIM A? Okay, you might say, oh, the workload was very high, I didn't do it. But I always had this fascination right from 12th to when I was 12 years old. Why didn't I do it in IIT Roper? I had all the time. I had internet. I had everything. I was watching movies. I was watching movies 4 movies a day. I was watching the same movie 10 times a day. We were downloading porn. We were downloading everything. But why didn't I read about financial markets? I could have started much earlier, right? Or why didn't I read about something else? I'm not saying you develop interests that you don't have, but some of these which you have, you tend to miss and say in the enjoying phase of life. I think that if you dedicate one thing and say, okay, at least for this thing, apart from academics, apart from the bakchodi I do on campus, I'll dedicate this one thing to learn a new skill set, which I'm anyway already interested in, not for the sake of CV, not for the sake of career, purely because I'm interested, I'll do this. I think that will help you have a great head start. Even if you don't, that is not the end of the world, because I think I'm doing quite well, all right. But I think with all the time one wastes on campus, I think 1 hour a day is not very difficult. Again, that's not an advice, that's a suggestion. Even if you don't do it, it'll still not be materially different where you'll end up in 60 years time. But yeah, that is something I wanted to say.
Okay, so that is all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving such an amazing interview. And I'd definitely like to stay in touch with you for more further questions and clarity about just all the things that you have done.
Sure. And I'm happy to connect with not just SAS and you, but with any other alumni who wants to get in touch with me for whatever, I wouldn't say help, but guidance. I can give in my inputs, but like I always say, the decision has to be taken by the other person. I'll not tell him what to do, but I can give my experiences. Even he or she, I'll be happy to do that. And it has been great talking to you. And thank you for accommodating my request to do it today and not tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Sriram, for